did you do it? Let me see your method.
No, sir, I just remembered the period table I learned in 10th grade, half I learned, right? So from that I remembered.
Acha, so you didn't solve it, okay? You just did
Yes,
it by
sir.
memorizing.
And then I
It's
googled it if there's other ways. So I saw some other ways, but I wasn't able to understand them.
so you are not able to understand them, okay?
Yes, sir.
Assalamu alaikum, Samaira. How are you? Okay, Samaira not connected to audio. Yeah. Yes, Samaira, how are you?
I'm good, sir.
Okay, so they are saying that there is an element which is present in the third period. The third period and 17th group. And 17th group. Okay. Now, from here, what you can do, from here you can either you memorize the periodic table. That means if you are in the 17th group, then the elements can be one of these, right? Fluorine, chlorine, bromine, iodine, and astatine, right? And we know that fluorine is in second period, so chlorine is in third period. That means this is group 17, and in the third period we have chlorine, and in the third period we have chlorine, right? So this can be one way of answering the question, that third period and 17th group. Okay. Now the other way could be that you determine the atomic number from this information. Okay, atomic number. Even if you know the atomic number, then what you have to do, you have to have memorized the atomic number till at least 20 or 30, then only you can answer this question, right? So how do we get the atomic number from the period number and the 17th group? Okay, any idea? So third period, you will have the outermost electronic configuration will be outermost electronic configuration. This will be what? It is in third period, right? And it is in 17th group. Now, if it is in 17th group, that means it has how many valence electron? Valence electron is equal to 7. That means in the third shell, there should be 7 electrons. Now, in third shell, we have 3s. This will be 3s2. And after 3s, we have 3p. And 3p will be 5, right? So this is the outermost electronic configuration. And inner, the core electronic configuration will be what? The core electronic configuration will be, this is 3. So what is the second noble gas? What is the second noble gas? What is the second noble gas? Neon, right? So this will be neon, 3s2, 3p5. Now you can see that there are 10 electrons here, there are 7 electrons here. So this will make 17, right? This will give you 17. And this 17, atomic number 17 is a chlorine. So either way, you have to, there is some, I would say, method, and there is some memorization involved here. Okay. So either you remember the atomic number till 20, then you can get the atomic number. And if not, then if you remember the group 17 elements, from there you can identify which one is in the third period. Okay. So these are the only two ways. There is some memorization which is required. And it will be always required. Okay. It will be always required. Okay. Is everyone done with the questions that I gave yesterday?
Yes, sir.
What about Samaira and Hishma? Yes, Samaira. You didn't do it? Anyone? Okay. What about Hishma?
Sir, I didn't do that arsenic.
This one?
Yeah, 103. Yeah.
Okay, 103. So you will do it now. LR 103. Okay, now tell me, which is the noble gas, nearest noble gas before 103? Nearest noble gas before 103? Don't remember the noble gases? Hishma?
Yes, sir.
You don't remember the noble gases and their atomic numbers? No?
I don't remember the name. It is RN.
RN. Okay, no, that is fine. RN, radon. Okay, RN. If you remember the symbol also, that is okay, fine. RN, radon. And what is the atomic number for radon?
86.
Very good, 86. And how many electrons are left now? 103 minus 86, right? Minus 86. So tell me, how many electrons are left? 17 electrons more, right? 17 more, right?
Yes, sir.
17. Okay. Now radon is radon is noble gas number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7. Noble gas number what? 1. Is it the yes, Reshma, tell me. 6th, na?
Yeah.
So we will start with what? How much S? 1s, 2s, 3s, 4s, 5s, 6s, 7s, 8s. Where should we start from?
7s.
7s. Okay. So can I fill how many electrons should I fill here?
2 electrons.
2 electrons. Then what will come after 7s? So you have to remember this formula, okay? N minus 1 D NP. Now you have put 7 here, 7s. Then 7 minus 2, this term will be what? This term will be
5s.
what? 5f. So 5f exists or it doesn't exist? 5f exists or it doesn't exist?
No, it doesn't.
5f doesn't exist. Okay, so how do you check the existence of a subshell? How do you check it, Hishma? So you don't know how to check it?
No, sir.
Achha. So here you have to tell me what is the value of n,
5.
what is the value of L,
4.
what is the value of azimuthal quantum number for S,
L will be 3.
3, na? Okay. Now the condition is that n should be greater than L. Okay, n should be greater than L. Tell me, is the condition fulfilled or is it violated?
It exists.
It is valid, right? So 5f will exist, na?
Yes.
So 5f, how many electrons should I put in 5f?
For no,
How many electrons?
14.
14. Is there any more electron left?
Yes.
How many more electrons are left?
1 electron.
1 electron. Okay. I hope we did the calculations right. 7s2, wait a second. This is 17. Lawrencium 103, right? Okay, why is this coming in D5F? And then I will write 60. This is problematic. Wait a second. I hope I've written the atomic number correctly. Yes. Lawrencium is 103. It is 86. 103 minus 86 is equal to. This is problematic. Wait a second. This should be coming in the F block.
Sir, I got the same answer.
You got the same answer.
Yes, sir.
I have 14 and 61. So it is going in the D subshell, right? The last electron is going in the D subshell. Just hold on to it. Hold on to it, okay? Hold on to it. I will tell you about Lorentzian in the next class. This is violating the rules that we set now. I mean, the answer should be that it should be in F block. Lorentzian is in F block, that I remember. This is the last element of the F block. It should be in F block, right? It should be in F block. And the period is fine. Period is fine. The seventh period, that is fine. Seventh period, it is fine. And since if everything in F block, it is in group 3. So this should be the answer, but we are getting some different answer because it is the last electron that we are filling is in 6D1. 6D1. Okay, I will tell you about it in the next class, okay?
Yes, sir.
Lorentzian 103, okay? See. Okay, so Safwan has joined us. We completed all these S block, P block, and D and F block also, right?
Yes,
Yes.
sir.
Or no? Yes. Okay. Now, there are a few terms that you have to remember regarding the periodic table and with respect to the blocks. Okay, with respect to the blocks. Now, in the periodic table, wait a second. Yeah, the periodic table, we have classified all the elements into 4 general types. Okay, these are 4 general types. Please write the elements in periodic table classified into 4 general types. 4 general types. These are just names that you have to remember if they can ask you these things in the MCQs. Okay, so there is one noble gases, right? Noble gases. You know the noble gases, yes or no? Yes, everyone.
Yes,
You know the
sir.
noble gases.
Yes, sir.
So where are the noble gases situated in the periodic table?
18th group.
18. Yeah, group 18. So these are present in group 18. These are present in group 18 and they have general outermost electronic configuration as NS2, NP6, except for helium. Okay, except for helium. Helium has what? Helium has 1s2. Helium has the electronic configuration of 1s2. All the others, they will have ns2 and np6. That means the complete shell. That means they will have octet complete. Okay, the octet will be complete for the noble gases. Second point. And okay, one more thing regarding the noble gases is that they are very less reactive. Okay, they are very less reactive. They are very less reactive. Second is representative elements. Representative elements. Okay, what are these elements? These are the elements of S and P blocks. Elements of S and P block. Okay, these are the elements of SN P block. Now, why are these known as representative elements? That means this represents the almost all of the chemistry, almost all of the chemistry, and that is why these are known as elements of SNP block. Now in P block, you will remember that except group 18, everything is representative elements because group 18 was noble gas. Okay. Now in P block, you will have to remember in P block, except group 18, because group 18 we have already classified it into noble gases. We have already classified it into noble gas. The third is transition elements. Transition elements. Now, these are located at the D block elements. Okay, these are D block elements. D block elements. So D block starts with group 3 to group 12. Okay, group 3 to group 12. These are known as transition elements, and they lie between, you can also write one more thing, they lie between S and P block. S and P block. The last that you can write here, last you can write one more. Fourth, these are known as inner transition, that is F block, inner transition. Elements. So it is present in the, these are the F block elements. These are the F block elements. And how many are there? There are 14. Okay, there are 14 elements. There are 14 elements.
Done, sir.
Done. What about others? Safwan, Samaira. Done. Aisha, assalamu alaikum. How are you? You are still in Bihar?
Yes, sir.
Okay, there is internet today.
Yeah.
Okay, congratulations. Tomorrow you have a holiday. You guys know that, right?
Yes,
Tomorrow
sir.
you have a holiday. And I hope you know that there are extra classes now on Tuesdays and Thursdays also for your batch. 1 hour each. Did you get the message? Yes, Aisha?
Yes, sir. I got the message.
Okay, fine. Okay. There are a few more points to remember that you can write regarding the periodic table, because since it is MCQ now, they can ask many things and you will be thinking like such an easy question. Like they will ask you, which of the elements are liquid, which of the elements are liquid at room temperature, and they will give you options. So tell me, is this a tough question? They will ask you which of the following are liquid in room temperature. They will give you elements name. Now tell me, is this a tough question or easy question?
Easy.
Easy question, but अगर आपने देखा ही नहीं होगा कभी ये सवाल कभी मतलब you would have not learned the chapter in this way and you would not have seen that somewhere in the notebook or the textbook, then you can never answer that. Okay, you can never answer that. So please write a few things like that. Bromine is the only liquid non-metal. The only non-metal. Is the only non-metal which is liquid in room temperature. Okay. Now in metals, which metal is liquid at room temperature?
Mercury.
Mercury. And this is a common knowledge. I hope that everyone would know that mercury is the only metal which is liquid at room temperature, okay, at RT, at room temperature. Done.
Yes.
Yes.
Last is the last is limitations of the modern periodic table. Okay, limitations of modern periodic table. In limitations of modern periodic table, there are two main defects. Okay, there are two main limitations. The first is the placement of hydrogen. Okay, as you can see, hydrogen, it has one electron, right? Hydrogen, it has how many electrons? Only one electron. Now we have seen that hydrogen, to remove this electron, it is easy to remove this electron, and H plus is a very common species, But I mean, you can remove an electron from hydrogen also. And what you can do, the other thing that you can do is you can add one more electron to hydrogen. You can add one more electron to hydrogen, and it will become 1s2. Now 1s2 is a noble gas configuration. Now when you are removing an electron, it is behaving like group 1 elements. Yes or no? When you are removing an electron, it is behaving as group 1 elements, because group 1 elements, they can easily, from there you can easily remove an electron. But if you're adding one electron, it is behaving like group 17. So because in group 17 you can easily add one electron, and they will reach the electronic configuration of noble gases. Okay, they will reach the electronic configuration of noble gases. So this is the main dilemma here regarding the limitation of modern periodic table. The position of hydrogen, okay, position of hydrogen is not fixed. It resembles group 1 elements and also the halogens. The last is, and that is very evident when we look at the periodic table, the placement of lanthanoids and actinoids, right? They are separated, and they are not accommodated in the main body of the periodic table. And this is one of the limitations, that lanthanoids and actinoids, have not been accommodated in periodic table. They are placed separately below the main body. Done, everyone?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now we will learn about the properties and the trends in the properties of periodic table. Okay, trends in the properties of periodic table. Now, before that, what are the trends and what are the properties that we have to learn in this chapter? So there are mainly 5. Okay, there are mainly 5. There are properties. So the first property that you have to learn is the Z effective, the effective nuclear charge. Okay, and after that, you have to learn about the atomic radius or atomic size, I would say. Now, in this atomic size, there will be also ionic radius, ionic sizes, and other different things. Okay. Now, after ionic radius, after atomic radius, you have to learn about the ionization enthalpy. Ionization enthalpy. After ionization enthalpy, you have to learn about electron gain enthalpy. Electron gain enthalpy. Now, at the end, we have to learn about electronegativity. We have to learn about, at the end, electronegativity. Okay. So we will first start Z effective, and I just want to tell you that Z effective is essentially it is present in chapter 2. Okay, Z effectives. The NCERT has placed the Z effective in chapter 2, but I teach in periodic properties because the continuity is very good here. If I teach Z effective and then atomic size, you can relate with Z effective and atomic size very easily. Okay. Now my one note is, wait a second, I need to stop and reshare this. Okay. Note is not detecting the, now it is detecting. Okay. So please write this 5, and after that, make a heading. Z effective means effective nuclear charge. What is Z effective, everyone? What is Z effective?
Effective nuclear
Effective
charge.
nuclear charge.
Very good. So first thing that we have to learn here is the effective nuclear charge. Okay. So we have to learn something about the charge of the, what does nuclear charge mean? Charge of what? Charge of, what does nuclear charge? It means charge of what? Nucleus, right? Charge of nucleus. Okay. So what is the charge of nucleus? Positive or negative?
Positive.
Positive, right? It is positive. It is positive. Now, effective nuclear charge, it means that we are looking at the positive charge of the nucleus from the point of view of electron, from the point of view of the electrons, from the point of view of the electrons. That means we have some positive charge here, we have some positive charge here, and we have different shells. And in these different shells, we have some electrons. In these different shells, we have some electrons. Now, there will be 2 electrons in the first shell. The other can accommodate, second can accommodate at least 8. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and let us put 8 here. Okay. Now let us suppose that we have this 1 electron here. Okay, we have this 1 electron here. We have this 1 electron here. Now, please listen to me very carefully. Please listen to me very carefully. This electron, the first electron here. Now, whenever there is electron in the nucleus, whenever there is an electron in the nucleus, it is facing 2 forces. Okay, electron faces 2 forces. What are these 2 forces? The first force is that it will face some force from the nucleus, and that will be attractive or repulsive. It will be attractive or repulsive from the nucleus. Attractive. Very good. Attractive. Now, second. Now, when electron is present in the atom and it is other than hydrogen, if we are not talking about hydrogen, because hydrogen is only 1 electron. If there is a multi-electron system, then electronic, what will be there? Repulsion or attraction?
Repulsion.
Repulsion, right? There will be repulsion. There will be repulsion. Now, let us look at the electrons which are present in these shells. Let us look at the first electron here. Okay, let us look at the first electron, this electron. Now, this electron, if we look at this electron, then this electron is just experiencing, the pull from the nucleus, and it will be experiencing some extent to repulsion, but most of the times what it will be experiencing just the attractive force from the nucleus. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Now, if we talk about this electron, okay, if we go to the second shell and if we talk about this electron, now this electron, it will be experiencing some nuclear charge, some attraction from the nucleus, but it will also be experiencing some repulsive forces from these electrons. Right? These electrons will be repelling it. Yes or no?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yes. So there will be certain decrease in the attraction it is feeling towards the nucleus. Yes or no? Because these electrons which are creating the repulsion, they are in between nucleus and the electrons that we are looking at. That is why what will happen. Now, the effect of nuclear charge will be reduced. The effect of nuclear charge will be reduced. For example, we have how many electrons here? We have 13, right? 13 electrons. That means this positive charge will also be how much? This will be 13 positive charge. That means 13 protons. Yes or no? 13 are there, no? No,
Yes, sir.
11 are there. Sorry, 11 are there. 11
Yes,
are there.
11.
So 11. So there will be 11 positive charge. Now these two electrons which are in the first cell, that they will be experiencing all the 11 charge, all positive 11 charge they will be experiencing, but there will be some reduction in the charge experienced by the second shell electrons, and the reduction in charge experienced by the third shell will be maximum. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, right. Now what are these doing? What are these electrons doing? The inner shell electrons. What electrons? The inner shell electrons. What electrons?
Inner shell
Inner
electrons.
Inner shell electrons, right? Inner shell electrons, they are shielding the valence electron. Yes, they are creating a barrier in the attractive forces from the nucleus and the electron. What they are doing, they are shielding the electrons. They are shielding the electrons. That is why we say that the experienced charge, the charge that is experienced by this electron, the charge that is experienced by this valence electron here, it is known as Z effective. Okay, now you can say that the charge experienced by any of the atom, which any of the electron that you are looking at, but most of the time we look at the valence electron, because valence electron is the most special kind of electron, and it is the most useful electron, because valence electron is the one that is participating in bond formation, that is participating in reactions. And in chemistry we study about change, and change comes only with reaction, and the reaction happens due to the valence electron. So where we are focused in the valence electron. Now Z effective can be defined for any electron, but our point of interest is which electron?
Valence electron.
Valence electron. Okay, so you can say that Z effective, it is short for effective nuclear charge. It is short for effective nuclear charge. Okay, Z effective is Z. Z means the atomic number. The atomic number is equal to the number of protons. Atomic number is equal to number of protons minus sigma. Okay, what is the sigma? The sigma is shielding. Okay, the sigma is shielding. Now, please, if you have to draw this, please draw this and write Z effective is equal to sigma. Attractive from nucleus, and it will be facing repulsion from electrons of inner shell. Electrons of inner shell.
Done, sir.
Done? Everyone is done?
Yes, sir. No, sir.
Okay.
Done, sir.
Now let us define shielding. Shielding. Now what is shielding? Shielding is the reduction in effective nuclear charge on the electron cloud, right? Shielding is the reduction in nuclear charge is the reduction in the original nuclear charge. Okay, the original nuclear charge on the electron due to difference in attractive forces on the electrons of atom. So in different electrons, the reduction will be varying. If you look at different electrons in the same atom, it will vary. Now, a few more things regarding shielding. A few more things, and regarding Z effective. When we are talking about shielding, we are talking about Z effective, because the shielding is the one which will be varying, and the positive charge, the proton number, will be same if you are looking at one particular atom or one particular element. Now, there are few cases, and you can very easily you can generalize a number of things regarding shielding. The first thing is that the shielding, it will depend on shielding. It will both of things, it will depend on the size of atom. So we will look at Z effective. Z effective depends on Z effective depends on number one, size of atom. Number one, size of atom. Okay. Number one, size of atom. Now you can tell me two things. Now tell me, you have electron here. It's a positive charge here. There's a positive charge here. And you have electron here. Which will be experiencing more attractive forces, A or B?
B.
A.
Attractive
na?
forces A, yes.
Attractive force A. And shielding will be more in B, right?
B.
Yes.
Right. Okay. So Z effective will be high if you have small size of atom. Yes or no?
Yes,
Size of
sir.
atom. That means I can say Z effective. It is what? It is inversely proportional to size of atom. Right? It is inversely proportional to size of atom. That means I can also say that Z effective is inversely proportional to the principal quantum number. If the principal quantum number is increasing, that means the orbit number is increasing. And we all know that first orbit is near, then second orbit, then third orbit. As we increase the orbit number, the Z effective will be decreasing. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Okay. The next point, and that is second is the shielding of different orbitals. Okay, the shielding of different orbitals. Shielding of different orbitals. Now you will tell me, we have S orbital, P orbital, D orbital, and F orbitals. Okay. Now, as we go from S to F, we say that the orbitals are getting diffused. Okay. What is diffused? Meaning of diffused? I'm making two drawings here. Okay. I'm making two drawings here, and you will tell me which one is more diffused, because we just have to know relatively which is more diffused and which is less diffused. But tell me about two things. What do you think, A or B? Which is more diffused?
B.
B. Everyone agree that B is more diffused? A is more concentrated? Yes or no? No. Is there anyone who feels like A is more diffused? Diffuse means that it is spread over a wide area. Okay. Diffuse means it is spread over a wide area. Now you tell me, which is more diffused, A or B?
B.
B.
B na, spread over more area. As you all know that S is what S is. S has only one lobe, P has two lobes, D has four lobes, F has 8 lobes. Yes, that means what is happening? The electrons, the orbitals, they are spread over a more area, and that's why they are more diffuse. They are more diffuse. If I talk about the shielding power of different orbitals, I can see that the one which is nearest to the nucleus and one which is concentrated, they will shield the most, right? So shielding of S of, we should also write the sigma of S is most high. Shielding, okay? You're not talking about Z effective. You're talking about shielding, which will shield most. So S will shield most, then sigma of P, then sigma of D, and F has the least shielding power. Okay, this is the order of the shielding power. This is shielding power. Please write these points.
Done, sir.
Done, everyone?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, if you understand these 2 points regarding the shielding and Z effective, now from here, what we can do from here, we can start learning about the atomic radius and ionic radius. Okay, so first we will write atomic radius. First, we will write the property which is atomic radius. Now, atomic radius, that means what we are going to do, we are going to measure the size of the atom, or rather what we can say that we can measure the radius of the atom. Yes or no? Radius of the atom,
Yes,
we have
sir.
assumed that the atom is spherical and we have to measure the radius of an atom. Now, the radius of an atom, if you can define it, please write with me here, okay? Distance from the center of nucleus to the outermost shell of electrons. Okay, to the outermost shell of electrons. But the problem regarding this definition is that it is very difficult in terms of measurement. It is very difficult to take an atom and measure it. Because most of the times the atoms and the elements that we are learning about and that we are studying, they are present in the form of molecules. Right? They can be covalent and they can be metallic, and different kinds of molecules they can form. For example, I am going to measure the atomic radius of oxygen. I cannot take one nascent oxygen, that is our oxygen atom. What I will get in nature is O2 molecule. Now, from O2 molecule, I have to derive a way of measurement. I have to derive a way of measurements from where I can tell the atomic radius, from where I can infer about the atomic radius. Okay, where you can infer about the atomic radius. So there are a few ways. For example, in covalent type of compound, we use the covalent radius. Then there is metallic radius if we have for metals, and then the last there is noble gas. Okay, then the last we have noble gas. Now for noble gas, we use van der Waal. We use van der Waal radius. Okay, so first we have to learn about these three things. Next point, you will write that measurement of radius of an atom is very difficult. Hence, we use some approximate methods to determine, or rather I can say to infer regarding atomic radius. Infer regarding atomic radius. Okay, now these methods are what? Usually, one of the following is used. Okay, one of the following method is used. First one is covalent radius. Second is metallic radius. Third is van der Waal radius. Okay, covalent radius will be for covalent molecule, and these will be non-metals. Okay, these will be non-metals. These will be metals, and van der Waal radius will be for noble gases. They will be for noble gases. So we will first learn about covalent radius, then we will define the metallic radius, then the van der Waal radius.
Nonsense.
So write covalent radius. covalent radius. First, let us look at the diagram. Okay, so you have one atom. This is one atom, and this is the atom of another atom of the same element. Okay, this is another atom of the same element. Now, what we can do, we can say that this is the bond angle. Sorry, the bond length is this one. This is the nucleus, and this is the bond length. Right, this is the bond length. Now, what we have to do, whatever this distance is, let us write that this distance is d. This distance is d. Okay, so covalent radius will be equal to d by 2. Okay, is equal to d by 2. So from here, what we have to determine, the bond length. And bond length of what? Bond length of a molecule. Bond length of a molecule. A molecule, they exist in nature, right? These are not present in the atomic form, they are present in molecular form. They exist in nature, and that is how we can measure the bond length. Now, when we measure the bond length, we just half it to get the covalent radius. We just half the bond length to get the covalent radius. Okay. That's right, half of distance between two covalently bonded atoms of same element. Calculate the covalent radius of following. Okay, so you have been given the molecule. This is the molecule here, and here you will be given the bond lengths. Okay, here you will be given the bond lengths. So let us say you have H2. The bond length for H2 is 7. Wait a second. What happened? Yeah. Molecule is H2, right? And the bond length is 74 picometer. Then you have Cl2, and the bond length is 198 picometer. Br2 has bond length of 228 picometers. Okay, so what will be the atomic radii or covalent radii? Because covalent radii is a type of atomic radii. Covalent radii is a method from which we determine the atomic radii. So you will not get confused. Okay, atomic radii or covalent radii, these are the both same thing. I'm writing this here just to keep that in your copy, that covalent radii and atomic radii are same thing. So tell me, for H2, what will be the, everyone tell me, for H2, what will be the atomic radius? You just have to half it, na? You have got the bond length. Yes, everyone.
37.
37 picometer. What about chlorine?
99.
99 picometer. What about bromine?
114.
114. Very good. 114. Okay. Easy, right? So easy. Now let us go to the metallic radius. Let me know if you're done copying.
Done, sir.
Done, sir.
Okay, so metallic radius is also very similar. Okay. Metallic radius, what do we do here? We have 1/2 of the internuclear distance between two neighboring atoms of a metal in a metallic lattice. Okay, this is 1/2 of internuclear distance between the two neighboring atoms of a metal in a metallic lattice. Okay, in a metallic lattice means in solid state. That means in solid state. So you will have, let us say this is a solid. Okay, in this you have so this is a metallic lattice, and these are the metals. Okay, these are the metals. Now what we have to do, we have to take the internuclear distance. This is the internuclear distance, and then this is, let us say this is D, and then we just have to half it. Okay, we just have to half it. Same thing, same concept. Write this, let me know if you're done.
Done, sir.
Done, sir.
The last is van der Waal radius. Van der Waals radius. Okay, so van der Waal radius, it is, first let us look at the picture. This is, let us say, one helium atom. Okay, this is, let us say, one helium atom, and as you know that helium atoms, these are, they will have no bond, right? They will have I mean, helium is just present as helium. So this is another helium atom. Okay, this is another helium atom, and they are in a solid state. They are inside a solid state. You have to remember this. They are inside solid state, and this is the nucleus. That means you will compress it all and you will make it in solid state, and these are the nucleus. And this is the distance, right? This is the distance between the two nucleus. So let us say this distance is d. This distance is d. Now, if I do van der Waal radius, if I want to find the van der Waal radius, this will be again d by 2. This will be again d by 2. So as you can see, only the bonding is changing. Only the bonding is changing. Why this is called van der Waal radius? Because if you have two atoms, and there is no force of attraction such as chemical bond, so there will be some force of attraction due to mass, right? Newton's law, due to mass, there will be some force of attraction. Now, that force of attraction is known as van der Waal force of attraction. That force of attraction is known as van der Waal forces, and that is why when that force is used to determine the radius, it is known as van der Waal radius. But let us write the definition. It is 1/2 of internuclear distance between nuclei of two adjacent atoms of a substance belonging to two neighboring molecules in solid state. Okay, in solid state. So the van der Waals radius, you can calculate the van der Waals radius of any element also. Okay, it is mainly used for noble gases. But if you have, let us say, you have a covalently bond molecule like this is a Cl2. So similarly, you will have one more Cl2 somewhere, right? If you get this molecule in solid state, you have to have more than one molecule, then only it will be solid state. Solid, liquid, and gas, these are all not gas, but solids should have. I mean, the definition of a solid is such that you should have at least one more element or one more molecule. This is and this. So first of all, you have to identify that this is a molecule and this is a molecule. Okay, this is A and let us say this is B. Now, A and B are neighbors, right? A and B are neighbors, and it contains A contains 1, and this is 1. And let us write this 1 and 2, 1 and 2, and here it is 1 and 2. Okay. Now, to calculate the van der Waals radius, what are the distance that I have to measure? I have to measure the 2 of A and 1 of B, right? I have to measure this distance. This will be D, and then I have to half it, and I will get the van der Waals radius of, let us say, chlorine. If this is chlorine Cl2, okay, this is Cl2 and this is Cl2. This is one chlorine atom, the other chlorine atom. This is how we will measure the van der Waals radius. You just have to remember now. You just have to remember what? You just have to remember the diagrams. Diagrams are most important. Okay, diagrams are most important.
Done, sir.
Done, everyone?
Yes, sir.
Okay. There is a general trend that you can write. And you can also see that. Okay, you can also see that. Look at the van der Waals radius. Okay, look at the van der Waals radius, the D in the van der Waals radius, then the D at the metallic radius, and the D in the covalent radius. Now you can see in covalent radius, the atoms are overlapping. So D will be smallest. Now, if D is smallest for covalent radius, that means the covalent radius will be the least, usually. Covalent radius is the smallest, then comes metallic, and after that comes van der Waals. Okay, so covalent radius is the smallest, then metallic, and then van der Waals radius. Done, everyone?
Yes, sir.
Done, sir.
Okay. Now we will learn about the trends, periodic trends. Okay, we'll learn about the periodic trends. Whenever we learn about the periodic trends, what are we going to do? First of all, what we have to do? First of all, we will write the criteria. Okay, write the criteria. For example, atomic radius. If I say atomic radius, I can say it is directly proportional to Z effective. Yes or no? Tell me, it is directly proportional to Z effective. That means if the Z effective is higher, atomic radius will be also very large. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
अबे कैसे yes sir? हम जो बोलेंगे वो बात सही थी ना होगी. Listen, if the Z effective is higher, that means attraction is higher. Yes or no? Attraction is higher.
Yes, sir.
That means the electron will be pulled towards the nucleus. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Now, if electron is pulled towards the nucleus, what will happen? If the electron is pulled towards the nucleus, the atomic size will decrease. If the atomic size will decrease, atomic radius will decrease or not? It will decrease now.
Decrease.
So it is inversely proportional. Atomic radius is inversely proportional to Z effective. Okay, it is inversely proportional to Z effective. But the main thing that you have to remember, atomic radius is inversely proportional to attraction. Okay, now we will just look everything from this lens of attraction and repulsion. Now we are looking at the electrons. Electrons are attracted by the nucleus and electrons are repelled by what? Electrons are repelled by
Electron.
Electrons.
electrons, inertial electrons. Okay, inertial electrons. One more thing that you can say about atomic radius is that atomic radius, it is directly proportional to n. That means if I have electrons in the first shell, atomic radius will be something. But as I increase the shell number, what will happen? Atomic radius will increase. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
No doubt here. Okay, now that means first of all, easy case. First, we will write atomic radius variation in a group. Okay, first point is variation in. Now, whenever you are variating in a group, you have to look at period. And this is very counterintuitive, you will think. But if you are looking down a group, okay, this is group 1, let us say. This is group 1. Please, everyone, please listen to this. This is very conceptual. If you are looking at group 1, let us say you're looking at the NUC, RUB, Creswell. Okay. Now tell me, if I go down the group, what is changing? The period is changing, yes or no? The period is changing, yes.
Yes, sir.
Now this is very counterintuitive, but you place this in your mind. When we are looking in the group, we will compare the period number. When we are looking in the group, when we are looking in one group, we will compare the period number of different elements. That means lithium is in second period. N is equal to how much? N will be equal to 2. I hope you guys remember it. If it is in
Yes,
second
sir.
period, that means yes, we have done this, right? So in 3p, N is equal to 3. In 4p, N is equal to 4. In 5p, N is equal to 5. In 6p, N is equal to 6. And the 7th period, N is equal to how much? 7. That means if I go down the group, now you will tell me, if I go down the group, N is increasing? Yes or no?
Yes,
If I go
sir.
down the group, the shell number is increasing. Outermost orbit increases as we go down the group, and therefore atomic radius increases. Yes or no? Any doubt?
Yes, sir.
Any doubt here?
No, sir.
Okay, please write this down. Then we will look at variation in period.
Nonsense.
Done, everyone? Okay.
No, sir.
Oh, sorry. Okay, please write this. Others also write one more point, okay? I mean, ये तो आप लोगों को याद रहेगा, but फिर भी atomic radius increases as we go down the group. right from top to bottom.
Done, sir.
Now we will look at the variation in period. Variation in period, okay, in variation period. Now, if you are looking at one period, what will be changing? If you are looking at one period, what will be changing? The group number will be changing, yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Right? Group will be changing. Now, we will look at the second period elements, okay? We'll look at the second period elements. So what do we have? We have lithium. After lithium is beryllium. After beryllium, boron. Boron के बाद carbon. Then we have nitrogen. Right? After that is
Oxygen.
fluorine,
Neon.
neon. Okay. And let me just decrease the size of. Yeah. Now tell me, what is the atomic number of lithium?
3.
3.
3, right? It is 3. So we'll write the Z here. Z is 3. For this is 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Now, just for you, I am writing plus so that you can visually know that these are positive charges. Okay, right? The number of protons, number of protons. Then after that, we will write here the outermost electronic configuration. Okay, the electronic configuration, but outermost electronic configuration. So this will be 2s1, yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
This is 2s2. This is 2s2, 2p1. This is 2s2, 2p2. This is 2s2, 2p3. This is 2s2, 2p4, 2s2, 2p5, and this is 2s2, 2p6. Correct?
Yes, sir.
Now, one thing that I can say that if I am in a period, if I am in one period, I am in the same shell. Along a period, the shell number remains same, yes or no? Tell me yes or no.
Yes, sir.
But the number of protons and hence Z effective increases, yes or no? Plus 3 plus 4 plus what is happening? The proton number is increasing. That is why what will happen? Effective nuclear charge will also increase. Yes or no? No? The proton number is increasing now, so the attractive forces will be increasing. We have more number of protons which can
Yes,
attract the
sir.
electrons, right? Attract the electrons. Now, these things are very easy. Okay, so you have positive charge here. Let us say this is 3, right? 3 positive charges, and you have 1, 2 electrons, and there is 1 electron here. There is 1 electron here, right? And then you have compare it to the maximum that we can go. The maximum that you can go is regarding 9, and then you have so here you have 3 positive, and here you have 1 negative, right? Here you have 9 positive, and here you have how many? Oh, I have written 9 here. This will be not 9. Rather, this will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 electrons will be there in the outermost. 9 positive and 7 negative. Okay. So what do you think? Where will be the attraction more? See, here we have more number of protons, more number of electrons also, right? If you have more positive charge, more negative charge, the attraction will be higher or not. Just you have to see it in terms of mass. You just apply the gravitational formula. What is the Newton's gravitational formula? M1 M2 G M1 M2 upon R square. If the masses increases, what happens? The Gravitational pull also increases, yes or no? Similarly, if you will see Coulombic forces, okay, Are bhai, you guys know na? You guys don't know? You haven't learned gravitational till now? School में भी नहीं? Gravitational?
Yes, sir. Right.
Yeah, है ना थोड़ा थोड़ा. So in the Coulombic forces, what happens? The force of attraction is directly proportional to the charges. So here you have 3 positive and 1 negative. Here you have 9 positive, 7 negative. What do you think? Where will be the attraction more? Where will be the attraction more, in A or B? Tell me.
B.
In B, the attraction will be more, right? So in B, if the attraction is more, what is happening? If the attraction is more, the shell will shrink. The shell will shrink. And if the shell shrinks, I can say the atomic radius decreases if we go along the period. If we go along the period, what happens? Usually, generally, the atomic radius increases as we go along the period from left to right.
Done, sir.
Yeah, okay. Now,
Done, sir.
there are a few subtleties that you have to look for. Okay, there are a few subtleties that you have to look for. Now, if I look at nitrogen, okay, if I look at nitrogen, nitrogen has atomic number 7. Okay, nitrogen has atomic number 7. 1s2, 2s2, 2p3. Now, what I am doing, I'm just making the p shell. I'm just making the p subshell here. Okay, then we have oxygen, which is 8. 1s2, 2s2, 2p4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, you look at the electronic configuration of nitrogen and oxygen, and you tell me, just by the electronic configuration of these elements, you will tell me which is more stable electronic configuration, nitrogen or oxygen? Which is more stable?
Nitrogen.
Why nitrogen? Why nitrogen?
Because
Because it
symmetrical.
is partially filled.
Half filled, half filled, half filled. What? It is half filled, partially filled, half filled, right? Because it is half filled, and fully filled are more stable. Half filled and fully filled are more stable. That means oxygen in which there is some pairing done, oxygen in which there is some pairing done, what will happen? What will happen here? Here you will feel some kind of more repulsion, right? There will be a bit of more repulsion, yes or no? There will be a bit of
Yes,
more
sir.
repulsion. Hence, what happens? There is a slight increase in the atomic radius from nitrogen to oxygen. Because what should happen if we follow the trend? Oxygen has more number of protons, nitrogen has less number of protons. Then what should have happened? What should have happened was oxygen should have less atomic radius, but we see that atomic radius of O, oxygen is greater than atomic radius of nitrogen. Okay, but the difference is very slight. This oxygen is 74 picometer. I think it is in picometer. And nitrogen is 70 picometer. Okay, nitrogen is 70 picometer. So there is a slight increase. Please write this.
Done, sir.
Done, sir.
Everyone done? No. One point that you should write regarding the noble gas, the noble gas are at the end of each period. Yes, end of each period, but they don't have the least atomic radius. Okay, but they don't have the least atomic radius. But this is not due to noble gases. This is just because this is just regarding how we measure the van der Waals radius. Okay, they don't have least atomic radius because for noble gases, we use van der Waals radius, right? And we have already seen that van der Waals radius, it will be the highest radius, right? It will be the largest radius. That is why noble gas should have been the smallest, but they are not because of the way of measurement. We measure the noble gases by van der Waals, and we measure the others by either metallic or covalent. Now, van der Waals, by definition, it has to be having higher atomic radius than the covalent and metallic. That is why noble gases have higher atomic radius than the covalent and the metallic ones.
Done, sir.
What about others? Can we move?
Done, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now we will look at the ionic radiuses. Okay, ionic radiuses. Ionic radius. So first of all, we have to see what are ionic radius, and there are two kinds of ions. Okay, there are two kinds of ions. Yes or no? I hope this is everyone familiar with this part. Ions are of two types. Some are cations and some are anions, right? Cations, anions, and cations are positively charged, anions are negatively charged. Now, cations, they will be forming if you have a particular element A. If you remove the electron, the outermost electron from A, this will gain a positive charge, and anion will be, if you have A, if you add an electron to the anion, you will get A negative. Okay, A negative. Now, if you are removing an electron, what will happen? The size will shrink. Why the size will shrink from the parent atom? Because now we have less number of electron. The proton number is higher. Electron number is less. Proton number is higher. Then what will happen? If the protons are high and the electrons are less, protons can easily attract. Now, just attraction and repulsion. Okay, they can easily attract the lesser number of electrons. That is why we say that. The radius of A is greater than that of A plus. Okay, we are talking about this. Okay, now here what is happening? The protons number are same, but the electrons are increasing, right? The electron number is increasing. Now what will happen? The proton cannot effectively attract more number of electrons, and hence, in this case, radius. Yes. If we compare the radius, A will have smaller radius than the anion. Okay, than the anion. Two types of ions, cations and anions. How you form cation? You remove an electron. How do you form anion? You add an electron. And if we compare the radius of the ions with the parent atom, in case of cations, the cation has smaller radius than the parent atom. But in case of anions, the anion have larger radius than the parent atom.
Done, sir.
Done, everyone?
Yes, sir.
Now, see, the trends are same. Okay, the trends are same, but there are few things that you have to know regarding the ions first. Okay, the trend is same as atomic radius. We will write that at the end. but there are a few things that you have to learn. First is isoelectronics. Isoelectronic species. Isoelectronic species. Okay, isoelectronic species. What are these? Or isoelectronic species or ions? The ions, and this ion can be cation or anion both. Okay, the ions of different elements. The ions of different elements which have same number of electrons but different atomic numbers. Okay, that means the number of protons will be different, but the number of electrons will be same. Number of electrons will be same. Now, for example, you have, for example, let us say, what is lithium? If I do lithium positive, lithium 1 positive, and beryllium 2 positive. Okay, now lithium 1 positive and beryllium 2 positive. Let me write it like this first. Lithium 1 positive, beryllium 2 positive. So how many electrons are there? In lithium, number of electrons will be how much?
3. 2 electrons.
Now lithium positive will have 2 electrons, right? Parent will have 3 electrons and lithium positive will have 2 electrons. How many electrons will be there in beryllium 2 plus?
2
How many
electrons.
electrons? 2 electrons, right? So lithium and beryllium, lithium positive and beryllium 2 positive, these are isoelectronic species. Okay, you'll say that the relationship between lithium positive and beryllium 2 positive is that these are isoelectronic. These are isoelectronic. Okay, this is an easy definition. I will give you some question, and from there you have to determine which of the following are isoelectronic. Okay,
Done, sir.
which of the following are isoelectronic? Which of the following are isoelectronic? Oh, 2 negative. Okay, I hope you understand that if I'm adding 2 negative, that means there are 2 electrons I have added. How many electrons? 2 electrons. 1 Cl negative. Mg2 positive. Ca2 positive. L3 positive. Okay, so first you have to determine the electronic, sorry, not electronic configuration, but just the number of electrons in all of the cases. Okay. If you have a negative charge, what you will do to the parent atom, you will add 1 electron. If you have a positive charge, to the parent atom, you will remove 1 electron. Just solve the number of electrons for all of the 9 cases. Calculate the number of electrons for the 9 cases. Then it will be done.
Done, sir.
Done, everyone?
Yes, sir.
So for oxygen, the parent has how many? Parent has how many electrons? Safwan, parent oxygen has how many electrons? The neutral oxygen. Okay, he's not here. Okay. I'm asking neutral oxygen has how many electrons? How many oxygen? How many electrons are there in oxygen? Can somebody answer how many electrons are there in oxygen?
8,
8 electrons. And we have added how many electrons?
2,
2. And this will give me what?
10,
8 plus 2, 10. Chlorine has how many electrons?
17.
17, na? Plus, plus 1, na? Plus 1, right? We are adding electron here. So this will be 18 electrons. What about magnesium? Magnesium has how many electrons? 12. And we are removing how many electrons?
2,
2. So this will be how much?
10,
10. Calcium has how many electrons?
20,
20.
20. And we are
Minus
adding
2.
or minus 2. This will be 18, right? 18 again. Now aluminium has how many electrons?
13,
13. And we will be removing how many?
Minus 3.
minus
3,
Minus 3. This will be again 10.
10.
Sodium has how many?
11.
11,
11. And iron?
26,
Iron has 26. Fluorine?
9,
9,
9. Okay. Sulfur, 2 minus. Sulfur has how many?
16,
60,
16. And add or minus?
plus 2.
Plus 2. Very good. So this will be again 18. So the isoelectronic species are, we have these, this and this are isoelectronic, and we have another set which is 18, 18, 18, right?
The aluminum
So the
also.
aluminum also.
Aluminium is with the 10, na? Sorry. Okay, so the isoelectronic species 10 electron. 10 electron species are O2 negative, comma Mg2 positive, and we have aluminium 3 positive. And then there are 18 electrons. Isoelectronic species of 18 electrons are Cl negative. Then we have Ca 2 positive, and then we have sulfur 2 negative. Okay. Now you will be asked to compare see the number of electrons are same, but the protons number are different. And that means we can compare the radiuses or ionic radiuses of the isoelectronic species. Okay. So variation of ionic radii in isoelectronic species. So what we are going to do, we are going to look at ions. Then we will look at the proton charge, that is the Z. And then we will think about, and we will, what we can say that, we will predict the sequence. Okay, we will predict the sequence, whether there will be an increase or decrease, whatever is going on. So let us take nitrogen N3 negative. N3 negative will have how many? How many electrons will have? N3 negative will have how many electrons?
10,
10, yeah. Then we will have O2 negative. O2 negative will have how many electrons?
10 electrons.
10.
10 electrons. After oxygen comes what? Fluorine negative, F negative. Right? F negative will also have how many electrons?
10.
10. Now after F negative, I will write sodium, right? Fluorine. After fluorine is sodium, right? Na. Now Na positive. Sodium is 11. It will again have how many electrons? 10.
After fluorine is neon.
But neon we cannot ionize, na? We are looking at isoelectronic species. Now after sodium we will have what? After sodium we will have magnesium 2 positive. And after magnesium we will look at aluminium 3 positive. Now the number of protons here is plus 7, plus 8, plus 9, plus 11, plus 12, plus 13. Okay. And all of these have how many electrons? All of these have how many electrons? 10 electrons each, yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So tell me, if I go from nitrogen to aluminium, the size will increase or decrease? The attraction will increase or decrease? Tell me that. The proton number is increasing or decreasing?
Increasing.
Proton number is increasing. So the attraction will increase or decrease?
Increase.
Increase, right? If the attraction is increasing, then what will happen? The radius will decrease or increase?
Decrease.
Right? Very good. 10 electrons each, right? So if I go this way, science decreases, and we can write one more point like this: in isoelectronic ions, size is inversely proportional to only and only what? The Z. It is inversely proportional to only and only Z. Because if you will see now, all of them are having 10 electrons, and all the 10 electrons will be in what shell? The second shell only. So we don't have to look at the shell and anything. What we have to look always, we have to just look at the nuclear charge. We just have to look at the nuclear charge. So we can write Al3 positive, smallest, then there is Mg2 positive, then you will have sodium positive, and then there will be Fe negative, O2 negative, and 3 negative. It means that if we see, as we increase the positive charge, the size is decreasing. As we increase the negative charge, the size is increasing. Okay, so it is valid here also. The positives, cation is smaller than anion. Please write this down.
Done, sir.
Done, sir.
Done, everyone?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Write a few questions. Okay, write a few questions. Arrange the following in increasing order of radii. A part I, iodine positive, iodine negative. B, nitrogen, oxygen, and phosphorus. Chlorine, bromine. Write these, and then we will do some more. Done, everyone? No? You are free to look at the notes, okay? You are free to look at the notes.
Done, sir.
What about others? Mariam, Safwan, Samaira. Yes, Mariam, done.
Sir, doing the last one.
Last one. What about Samaira?
I'm doing so.
What about Safwan? Yes, Safwan. Are you done?
Yes, sir. Okay, I think A is done with everyone. Safwan, can you tell me the answer for A1? What's your answer? Oh, Safwan has just got disconnected. Okay, Hishma, Mariam, Samaira, anyone or all of you, please tell me what will be the answer. Increasing
one.
order, okay? Increasing order. So which is the smallest out of these three? Smallest is
I.
I negative.
I positive.
अरे भाई क्या हो
I
गया आप लोगों को?
neutral.
I positive ना? See, अभी तो पढ़ाया आप लोगों को. Put here I. If you will put, see, if you put here I and here you will put I, okay? So you have I positive, I negative, right? So if I compare I positive and I, then what will be greater? I will be greater than I positive, yes or no? Tell me. I will be
Yes,
greater than
sir.
I positive
Yes.
and I will be less than I negative.
Yes.
Yes, right? So which is the smallest? I positive is smaller than I positive is smaller than iodine
I.
neutral, and iodine neutral is smaller than I negative. That means I positive is the smallest. अभी तो पढ़ाया आप लोग इतनी ऐसी गलती क्यों कर रहे हैं? I positive is the smallest, then comes I, and then comes I negative. Okay. So cation is always smaller than the parents. Cation is smaller than parent, and anion is larger than parent. Okay, next one, please tell me. Next one. Which is the largest?
Phosphorus.
Which is the largest? Phosphorus, right?
Yes.
Right. And after phosphorus?
Oxygen.
Oxygen.
अरे यार अभी तो कर है ना नाइट्रोजन ऑक्सीजन
Oh,
एक्सेप्शन इसीलिए तो सवाल में भी दे दिया ऑक्सीजन इज ग्रेटर ओके ओके
yes, sir.
हाँ अभी तो कराया ऑक्सीजन एंड द स्मॉलेस्ट इज नाइट्रोजन okay now moving on now fluorine bromine there is no exception it is simple fluorine will be smallest because it's second period then will chlorine third period and bromine fourth period okay so this is the order I hope you have got this right yes or no
Yes, sir.
okay now okay, write some homework questions okay homework questions do you have NCERT yes or no tell me
Yes, sir.
in NCERT you will have some example questions also no some example questions there will be a question in MG2 plus somewhere in the after ionic radii na? If you look in the in-text examples you will see that which of the following species will have largest size and smallest size Mg2 positive Al3 positive
3.5.
what is that
3.5. Problem 3.5.
3.5 problem right and it is in text not end text there are two type of questions so you will have questions and these will be of either in text
and there are some questions that we call as end text. Okay, so this is those of in text question that inside the text you will have, and there are some question that is exercise na, that is end text question 3.5, right? And there is also one question, but that will be in the end text question. In that you will be asked to arrange the following elements in increasing order of size or something. You will see sulfur 2 negative, sodium positive, Br negative. Can you see that question in the end text? Can you see that question in end text? Yes or no? No? Otherwise, I have to find it out. Wait a second. Chapter 3, no? Okay, you can do one more question. Okay, write the end text questions. Okay, end text. End text question, please write. 3.9, 3.10, 3.11, 3.12, and 3.13. These are some things that you can do. Okay, then I think that will be in text only. Problem 3.5 is only good. Okay, write these questions only. Okay, so in text you have 3.5 and end text, that is exercise. You look at these questions 3.9 to 3.13. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. Now we will just touch upon the topic of ionization enthalpy. Okay, we'll just touch upon the topic of ionization enthalpy, and then we'll be done with today's class. Okay, so please write ionization enthalpy. Ionization enthalpy. What is ionization enthalpy? We have seen that how do we make ion? Ion we make either by removing. So ionization, in ionization, what do? We remove an electron. Okay, we remove an electron. So what is this? Energy required to. What is enthalpy? Enthalpy just means that enthalpy means energy. For you, you can understand enthalpy as energy. The energy required. Now, one more thing. If I have an electron which is in the influence of a proton, which is in nucleus, it is attracted by the protons. Will I have to give energy? Will I have to give energy to electron to remove it? Yes or no? I will have to give energy, right?
Yes, sir.
I have to apply energy. So that is why I will write energy required. Energy required to remove the most loosely bound electron from an isolated gaseous atom of an element. Called ionization enthalpy. Okay. Ionization enthalpy. So
Answer.
energy. Okay, this loosely bound electron, most loosely bound electron is what? Is the outermost electron. The outermost electron means electron of valence shell. Okay, electron of valence shell. Now you see that valence shell will not leave you. Valence shell will be present everywhere. Valence shell will not never leave you. Okay. Now what I'm doing, I'm giving you a question. Which electron will be removed in iron during ionization? Okay, it is given that iron Fe is 1s2, 2s2, 2p6, 3s2, 3p6, 4s2, 3d6. Okay, this is the electronic configuration. This is the electronic configuration. Which electron will be removed in iron during ionization? Option A, 1s electrons. Option B, 2p electron. Option C, 4s electrons. Option D, 3d electrons. Tell me, which electron will be removed? 1s, 2p, 4s, 3d. Which one?
3D.
3d. Which one? Yes. What about others? What do they think? Who said 3d?
I said
Okay. What about Mariam and Samira? Yes, Mariam and Samira. Which is the most loosely
3D
bound?
electrons.
3d. What about Samira?
3D.
3d electrons. No, 3d electrons. Okay. Very good. Very good. 1, 2, 3, 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 3d electrons will be present somewhere here, right? Yes or no? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
And what about these electron? 4s2, it will be present here, na? It will be
Yes.
present here, na? So tell me which is most loosely bound, which is most loosely bound, which is valence? 4s. Yes, very good, very good. Thank you very much. 4s. Now you won't do any mistake, okay? Never do this mistake. Valence means valence. अरे सबसे बाहर जो लिख दिया वो valence नहीं ना हो गया? Valence shell में अभी तक दिक्कत आई, क्या धीरे धीरे आएगा ना? पिछले साल तक तो आप लोगों को कुछ आइडिया ही नहीं था 10th क्लास में, है ना? 11th क्लास में इतना सारा चीज आ जाता है, दिमाग खराब हो जाता है सबका, है ना? तो आप लोग को आएगा, धीरे धीरे आएगा. बस पेशेंस रखिए, पेशेंस. इतना लिखिए आप लोग.
Done, sir.
Done? Now, another topic is successive ionization enthalpy. Okay, successive ionization enthalpy. Successive ionization enthalpy. Now, let us suppose that we have removed one electron from Fe. So Fe is Fe. We removed one electron, so it became Fe positive, and one electron was given. Now we can remove one more electron from Fe positive. We can remove one more electron from Fe positive, and then Fe will become what? Fe2 positive, yes or no?
yes, sir.
Yes or no? Right? Now this is known as, this is successive, right? Successor of ionization enthalpy, successive ionization enthalpy. Now this ionization enthalpy, this is known as the first ionization enthalpy. This is known as first ionization enthalpy. And the energy required if we are going to remove an electron from the cation formed by first ionization, it is known as second ionization enthalpy. The energy required here, it will be what? Second ionization enthalpy. If it is Fe2 positive and we are removing one more electron to make it Fe3 positive plus one electron, this will be what? This is third ionization enthalpy. Got it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now here also the same thing here also. Okay. Most loosely bound. Most loose electron, I would say. Most loose electron in Fe will be removed. What about here? Most loose electron of Fe positive will be removed. And what about here? Most loose electron of
Fe2 positive.
Yeah, Fe2 positive will be removed. Okay, please remember this. Now, what do you think? What is more difficult, to remove an electron from neutral species or to remove an electron from a cation? Tell me, which is more difficult?
removing electron from cation.
It is more difficult, or it is easy?
More difficult.
More difficult, right? And that is why, and what we can say is that second ionization enthalpy is always greater than first ionization enthalpy. Okay, and we can also generally say that the energy required on successive ionization increases on successive ionization increases. Okay, please write this much down. Then we will look at the factors governing the ionization enthalpy. Now you must